Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. A very late edition for me right now. It is Saturday night, June the 14th for me right now. This will be going up Sunday on its usual time slot, all those things. It's particularly late for me to be recording because I've been doing lots and lots of research here for some of the topics today, and also I've had a lot of general life things that I've had to deal with. So before I get started, this is episode 16 of Cube Ramblings, and in total episode 47. Yeah, 47 of my Cube World series, which is the longest running series that I have on my channel, as well as the first series I've ever had on my channel. So that's a thing. And for those who are new and are looking at this and going, what the hell is going on here? Because I've noticed that there's been an uptick in general views, most likely because there are certain larger, much larger YouTubers who are interested again in Cube World, and I must be popping up on some search engines there. I just want to kind of explain really quick what I do and why I do this, and then get into the topics that I have for today. So first of all, this started out as a traditional LP where I was just playing Cube World and commentating on what I was doing and so on and so forth. The problem is I got to about episode 11-ish of that and realized that I really had very little else to talk about as far as the game goes. It was mostly just me reacting to things and not having much else to say or do, and there was long periods of time where I'd be walking between, various events in the game and doing lots of editing, and it didn't feel very interesting, right? It's kind of like walking in one direction in Minecraft. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just you kind of need something to pass the time, something to make for some interesting conversation. So what I decided to do around that time was to sort of turn this into a podcast. Generally speaking, I usually talk about anything I feel like. But I do try to stay relatively on topics as far as, gaming and my channel and things like that. Usually gaming related topics I try to stay on. Although I will occasionally throw in a few other things that I enjoy, like sci-fi and whatnot. And that's basically the roundup. I try to, I play Cube World for about 45 minutes or so. And then I, round up my topics and talk over the footage that I've recorded. In case you're wondering, yes, it is post-commentary. Mostly because if I did this live commentary, I would have lots of problems where I would break my train of thought and end up, commentating on something in the game and then forgetting where I was at and having to come back to it, and that makes for a bit of a while it makes for closer to an LP, it makes for a rather terrible podcast. So really, honestly, this is more meant for you to sort of play this in a background tab and just listen to me ramble on about things, and then every so often, if you feel the desire, you have something to occupy your eyeballs. That is the way I usually approach this. So, all that being said, that basically brings you up to speed with what I'm doing and what's going on. Now, last week I talked right at the end of last week's episode about things going on in Minecraft, and I said that I would re-pick up that topic this week, And I'm actually kind of glad that I did that, because more has happened, more has changed. We've gotten a lot of clarifications from Mojang and several other reactions that have happened in the week that has passed, as far as the monetization of servers. Mojang had, for a very long time, has had a problem where server owners have been it's been a wild, wild west out there, and they have been profiteering off of Minecraft, and really, I guess the best way I can say it is, in many ways, taking advantage of the younger players who don't really understand or what's going on, and just want to have access to their parents' credit card and just do what they want to do. So it's been a problem. It's been a fairly unknown problem. Yeah, it's known and unknown. It really depends on what circle you're in. But it's been around for a while. This is not something that just cropped up overnight. And Mojang has been very quietly sort of putting the kibosh on some of these servers and asking them, cease and desist your activities. But they haven't been very public about it until very, very recently. And I think what happened, I don't know for certain, but based upon the tweets that I've seen and based upon the information I have, it seems like the problem has just gotten worse recently, and they're starting to have to devote time. The support team of Mojang, anyway, has had to start to devote inordinate amount of time with angry customers complaining about servers charging lots and lots of money and doing all these weird, shady things, and basically being asked to support their product on some server that's modified it heavily or otherwise doing something a little bit shady, and getting a lot of angry phone calls about it. And that poses a problem, right? It poses a problem because Mojang can't police all these servers. They don't have the personnel to do that. They potentially have the money to do it, but even then, that's kind of a waste, right? And two, it really shouldn't have come to that. I mean, basically, there are people who are taking their intellectual property and really, really stretching it to the point where they're making money off of it. Now, that being said, Mojang has always been kind of open about a lot of things. YouTubers doing monetization being one of the main things. Also, they've been sort of open about servers asking for donations, because obviously hardware and all that stuff costs money, and it would be nice to, if you have a lot of players, you want to be able to support that, those kinds of things. They just haven't had any real official policies. It's always been sort of a gray area, and people have been taking advantage of that. There are a lot of shady servers out there that have been doing kind of really weird stuff, like charging their players extra money for, say, diamond armor. Something that is part of the vanilla game that they should have access to. They don't. And I'm not talking about anti-griefing stuff. I mean, the anti-griefing stuff has always been there since, griefing became a thing. There's always been servers that have banned the use of, say, lava and whatnot to certain classes of users. But I think the difference there is they often did not, those servers that banned those things often did not put a paywall in front of them. They just said, look, unless you're an op or a mod of some kind, you don't have access to destructive things in order to keep the griefing to a minimum. And then if you're just a plebe, you can't do that stuff. And that's different than what, that's a whole different idea than, say, you must, in order to gain access to a lava bucket, you must pay $200 or something like that. You must become a patron of this thing, or pay some kind of monthly fee. Because that causes a lot of confusion, right? Because it's a paywall. It's essentially you're paying for a feature of the game that you've already paid for. It's double dipping, and it's unethical. There are no two ways around it. It's just completely unethical. You don't do that kind of thing. The thing that I've noticed, and I think this comes from a lack of experience, right? The thing that I've noticed is that these things are not unknown concepts, right? You look around at indie devs that have some kind of experience, you'll see, the first thing you'll see is if they are doing a multiplayer game, they will more often than not have two classes of servers. If they offer their own servers, they'll offer them as official servers, quote unquote, and they'll be listed as official servers so that they can actually, the players know, hey, this server is something that you can get support from the developer, right? And then, if they give you the ability to spin up your own custom servers, they're identified as such. Hey, these are custom servers. You're in the Wild Wild West here. We can't provide support. It's not possible. We don't know what they're doing, how they're doing it. It's just not possible for us to do anything about that other than give them cease and desist orders, right? And the fact that Mojang took so long to do that was always kind of weird. It strikes me as they just didn't have the experience to know to do that. And it would not surprise me if in a newer version, of the game, if they didn't put some kind of message in there when you connect to servers and say, look, you're not. If you connect to a non-Realms server, maybe it'll probably pop up a message in the game that says, look, you're on a non-official server. Mojang cannot provide support for this. What surprises me the most, given my experience in development and whatnot, not game development, but regular, enterprise development. What surprises me the most is that they have not, up until now, insisted on a lot of these, servers that are out there. A lot of these popular, mini game servers like Hypixel and Play Minecraft and stuff like that. These servers, you go onto their sites, they don't really call out the fact that they're not affiliated with Mojang. And that always struck me as problematic, right? And Mojang has come out and said, look, guys, this is not cool. In their recent blog post this week when they're talking about the server monetization stuff, they said, look, it's not cool that you're just putting stuff up here and you're not making the players aware that you're not affiliated with us, right? I mean, if I were to dev, I would be saying, look, hey, you can run a server all you want, but I'm going to put a message in game that says that you're not affiliated with me, and on your website and all your marketing material, you have to put some kind of small text that says you are not affiliated with Mojang at all. You are just a regular custom server thing, community server, because that leads into all these problems that they're alluding to in their tweets, which is people are confused. They think that this is something that's official by the officially supported, and they're going to Mojang support and saying, hey, what the hell, I can't do this, or I can't get a refund for this, or I can't do that. And Mojang's going, I have no idea what you're talking about, because we have no idea what you're doing. What server are you on? We don't support these things. And they're getting understandably angry because they don't understand. They were not under the impression that was the case. They thought that these were microtransactions that the game had come with, and that they needed in order to do what they wanted to do. And it's especially true when you have a player base that is as young and by young, I mean, I'm not talking age-wise, I'm talking experience-wise, inexperienced player base, right? Because you could be young in age and still understand these concepts, but it's less likely, the younger you are, it's less likely, since you're not world weary yet, it's less likely that you'll have the same experience and know that, hey, the wherewithal to know that this is not part of the game. This is not, you're paying for something that's useless and that you shouldn't have to pay for, and those kinds of things. And really, you're just thinking, hey, this is something cool. I mean, look at all the money that Valve makes in Team Fortress 2 for, freaking hats. I mean, like cosmetic items. All these games companies make so much money off of cosmetic items, and to an old guy like me, that's like, okay, I might, if it was a free to play game, which I guess Team Fortress 2 is free to play now, so that makes sense. If it's a free to play game and I feel the need to sort of donate to the developers for give them an attaboy in a monetary terms, then yeah, okay, that makes sense. But when you've already paid for the game once, and then you're gonna go pay for cosmetic items, that's where I start to get a little iffy, right? But someone not quite as world weary would look at that, would probably not even bat an eye at that and go, oh, this is cool, I want this, and then they just, I want, and they get until something goes wrong and they lose. Maybe that custom server had an outage of some kind, and all the patrons lost their custom stuff that people paid for, and there's no refunds, obviously, because it's paying for the server, so there ain't no money to refund, right? So that's where I imagine these problems are coming in, where people are complaining, and of course they have people who don't play or not familiar with how Minecraft works or familiar with the community would not realize that these servers that their kids are playing on are not affiliated with Mojang, and so they're going right to Mojang for support, and that's where all these problems are arising. So it kind of gives you the roundup of the history. Now, the blog post that went out describing how you can monetize things had several points in it, and I'll list the points and then maybe talk a little bit about them. So first of all, which I have to turn to the correct page here to get it. First of all, Mojang's like, all right, you can, as a server owner, charge for access, but there are no tiers, right? So if you charge for access, you charge everybody for access, and you charge the same amount across the board, which is fair. It's not really going to help the server owners out too much, but I digress. I want to list out some of these things first before I start to dig into it. So that's number one. Number two, you can ask for donations for your server. Plain and simple. Hey guys, you can gain access for free, but if you like what you see, please donate. And it's the simple form of donation, which is like, hey, you can donate, but that's all it is a donation. You don't get anything in return necessarily for the donation, other than you can get like an attaboy or a maybe a call out in game or something benign, nothing that would give you an advantage over the other players. The next point they had on there is you can have in-game advertisements, which this is the point that really surprises me, and I'll talk in detail of these things in a minute. But that one, you can have in-game advertisements. I assume that means either chat, or you could probably even have some kind of billboards that generate themselves as the players are walking around, I imagine, because there was no real limitations put on it. So that's a thing. You can offer cosmetic items for people who are patrons, say, of your game. So in other words, you collect a donation from that person, and they can get maybe some kind of well, I guess I could play Minecraft as an example. You get the was it a drink that allows you to jump around in the lobby. You know, it doesn't give you any advantage in any of the games. It just, in the lobby, gives you certain things that you can do to just kind of distinguish yourself from other people. So those are okay. The one thing that they said is not okay is giving out capes. And I've seen things where people will get capes for stuff. I believe Optifine is one of those things. The mod, Optifine mod. If you donate to them, you can get an Optifine cape, which only other people who are using Optifine can see. That would be expressly forbidden in this because Mojang wants to reserve capes for themselves. They want to reserve them for people who have gone to Minecon and special things that are related to Mojang events. So that seems fair enough, I would say. Personally. And the final point, besides don't pretend to be us, which I've talked about a little bit already, is no real world cash exchange for in-game currency. So basically that's getting rid of the microtransactional stuff, right? That's kind of putting the final nail in the coffin of the microtransaction stuff. In other words, if you have, say, gold in-game or, say, emeralds in-game, and that's your economy, where people can trade in your emeralds for weapons and whatnot, you're not allowed to charge real-world money for those emeralds. Again, it's the whole microtransaction stuff. So now, dig into some of these points here and sort of expand on them a little bit. So the first one, you're allowed to charge for access. That is, in my opinion, very generous. It's also very fair, right? It's like, hey guys, you can, we know that servers cost money. We understand. You can hide your stuff behind a paywall, but you have to do it for everybody. It can't just be like certain people, right? You can't have a free tier. You can't have tiers of players. You can't have a free tier and a patron tier and all that stuff. That stuff goes away for the most part, as far as gaining access to the server, right? So what does that mean from a more general perspective? That means, if I were to take, since I'm most familiar with playing Minecraft, if I were to take that as an example, patrons of that game are able to join servers in the network that are otherwise full to the non-patrons, and that, as far as I can tell, in this the way the Mojang has this worded, would not be kosher. Mojang further expanded to say that even though that technically they're separate servers, Mojang expanded further to say, look, if they're called Play Minecraft, and they're falling under the same website and same management, then it's one big server. Even though it's a server farm behind the scenes, most players who are non-technical will not understand that there's when they're on one server versus another server. To them, it all looks like one continuous experience, which is the whole point, right? That's the whole point of having a lobby system and having multiple servers, is that you want it to be a consistent experience for everybody. You don't want them to have to worry about, okay, now I got to go manually enter this, manually enter that, those kinds of things. So that, to me, makes sense. It's like, hey, you can do this, just don't, freaking confuse the player base, right? So that, to me, means that, if I were to look at Play Minecraft, for instance, they would have to remove the ability for patrons to enter games that are otherwise full, or servers that are otherwise full. I mean, basically that goes away because Mojang has said nope. And there is no. Granted, this is the thing that happens when stuff like this goes out, is that you have a ton of people trying to punch holes in it, like, oh, well, you know, what if I have this scenario? What if I have that scenario? The reality of the situation is, if you're trying to punch holes in something, it's because you're trying to get around it, right? The spirit of the rules, or the community process is, hey, we want you to be ethical. Not ethical, but we want you to not try to pull a fast one on the users, right? So the idea that you're gonna, like, oh, I'm gonna find this little loophole here or this little loophole there, that's anti-community, that's anti-user. All right, just, you know, suck it up, find a different way. I mean, they've given you at least five different ways here that you can do a better job of it. Donations. That one, again, goes hand in hand with the charge for access, with a caveat, and that is, it also sort of overarches some of the other things that they were talking about with the cosmetics. So server owners rightly are concerned, right? I mean, donations, the very bare bones donational thing, right? Which is, hey, please feel free to, if you like what you do, if you like what the server has to offer and you're enjoying yourself, please donate out of the kindness of your heart. Problem is, most people forget or have no kindness in their heart. Right? They just they take things for granted. That's just the way it is, right? Or they donate once and then that's it, right? They're like, hey, I threw $10 your way, and they don't realize that that $10 maybe helped for the 1 month, but every month they've got to pay server bills, right? So the problem that a lot of server owners would run into is that the donations will come in fast and furious at the beginning, and then they just taper off to almost nothing because, you know, people feel like they did their duty, and they don't realize that it's sort of kind of a monthly thing, that, you know, the server needs to be paid for monthly. It doesn't, you know, the bills are continuous. They're basically renting a server. Your rent never goes away, right? As long as you have that server. So in order to sort of encourage continuous donations, the server owners came up, a lot of the minigame server owners have come up with the idea of have some perks for donating. And those perks kind of disappear after a certain time period, after a month or two, right? To try to encourage you to buy the perk again, so that then helps them pay for their server costs on a monthly basis, and the donations don't suddenly start to drop off. For the most part. I mean, they still do drop off because, you know, people do their thing and then they kind of get tired of it and they go away for a little while, and maybe they come back later, and so on and so forth. So what that means, though, is that, and that's sort of where Mojang kind of stepped in and was like, okay, we understand, at least partially, that simply asking for donations is not enough. That your server's just going to die off anyway because people just forget. They donate once and they're like, hey, I'm done. I did my civic duty, and, you know, and they never come back. So having some perks helps with that. So that kind of dovetails into the cosmetic stuff, where they're like, okay, you can do that as long as the items are only cosmetic. They do not give you an advantage in game, which pretty much killed a bunch of servers right there. Play Minecraft, for the most part, is, from what I understand, pretty much all the items that they were given were cosmetic, except for maybe Dwarves versus Zombies. I think I haven't played any of Dwarves versus Zombies because I feel like the community of that is toxic, just by the nature of the game. The game plays sort of like a MOBA, and much like a MOBA game that is very unregulated and very, the community becomes very toxic because everybody's enjoyment of the game is based upon the other players, and God help you if you're a new player. You know what I mean? You just get your ass handed to you, and you get ripped apart. And that's the one reason why I avoid most MOBAs. I like MOBAs, and I'm going to talk about some that were announced in E3, but I do not like it when the community is not very welcoming, and it really depends on the mechanics of the game. And the way the mechanics of the Dwarves vs. Zombies is set up, it's very punishing, because it's basically a zombie survival. Survive the waves and waves and waves of hordes of mobs. Horde mode, that's what it is. It's survive the hordes, and then the enjoyment of the game is derived from how long you survive. Eventually everybody will die, but because eventually everybody will die, it becomes about how long you survive. Because of that, if you don't survive very long, because your survival is depending on other people also surviving and keeping the monsters at bay, if those other people suck, like me, if you don't manage the community well, it becomes very toxic to everybody, except for the most expert people. And unfortunately, it doesn't take long for you to look through the Reddit and stuff for Play Minecraft and see just how toxic the Dwarves vs. Zombies community actually is. So that's why I've always avoided that one. So that might be the only thing that is impacted by the whole cosmetic thing, because I think that you can actually get perks in there that others can't get. So it kind of creates the class warfare thing where there's the haves and the have-nots, and that's kind of the thing that Mojang is putting the kibosh on. Like, hey, you can collect money, you can give out cosmetic things, but you cannot classify your users. You cannot have the haves and the have-nots, the ones who paid and the ones who didn't pay, because that creates a situation that will cause them much consternation when they have to support things on their support lines. So that, again, very reasonable. I mean, extremely reasonable. I can't think of another company that has actually come out and said in that plain English, like, hey, here's what we're cool with, here's what we're not cool with, right? And been so succinct about it. Now, granted, there's a lot of room for interpretation in there, and I'm doing a lot of that interpretation in my own head, and maybe others are interpreting it slightly differently, because it was purposely open-ended so as not to really cause was sort of wishy-washy in that regard, where it's like, we don't want to cause too much waves, but at the same time, we want to be, kind of, we want to get across our point that we don't want this to be a pay-to-win situation. We don't like microtransactions. Remember, at the end of the day, this is our IP, and you're technically making money off of our IP, which is not legally good. It is not legally sound. But at the same time, even though it's not legally sound, we acknowledge that you are helping drive our sales. So we're letting you do this because at the end of the day, everybody wins, as long as everybody wins on your server. So that's kind of the gist of it, as well as I can put it. And then that also goes into the no real world cash thing. Obviously, here's the thing about that. And this is the thing that a lot of indie devs this is the problem that a lot of indie devs are running into who are doing the early access thing. And this is why there's a lot of backlash, I think, with the early access stuff, even though I enjoy early access and I will continue to do so. The backlash comes from the fact that if you charge even $1 for early access for a game, or $1 for some kind of in-game purchase, suddenly you get a whole group of users who feel like they're entitled to tell you what to do. And otherwise be very, very hard and harsh. And indie devs all around are suffering from that right now, where there's a very vocal subset of gamers that get very entitled as soon as money exchanges hands. They get very entitled to, this is what I need and this is what I gotta do. And there's laws even in the EU that are like consumer protection laws that would kind of make it even more difficult. So it's like, hey, they can always get refunds for things, and there's a certain process that has to go through, and it gets very dicey and very ugly, because there's always that subset that wants to just poke you in the eye whenever they possibly can, because of some perceived slight. They feel like, okay, now I gave you $1, I now own your ass, and if you're not making the game that I want, regardless of what the community wants or what you want as the developer, if it's not what I want, I'm going to complain loudly as I can, and I'm going to just throw it back in your face as much as I possibly can, because you took $1 of my money. So that's just a big thing across the board. And that also brings you into, legal problems as well. It also, by saying this whole no in-game currency for real-world money thing, it also is a legally problematic thing, right? Because these server owners could be milking their player bases for money, tons and tons of money, and that could be some kind of weird pyramid scheme going on, right? Like, there could be something illegal going on with that money exchanging hands. And because these server owners are also not distinguishing themselves and saying that they have no bearings on, they're not affiliated at all with Mojang, it gives Mojang a bad name. It could possibly even put Mojang on the hook legally, where somebody could sue them, and even though it has nothing at all to do with them, it's a perception thing. You have to be very clear about what's cool and what's not cool. So those are my thoughts on that. I think in general, I think this is an extremely fair thing that Mojang has done. Notch put up a blog post just today, I believe, talking about some of the backlash that he's been getting about this. And I think a lot of that backlash is just, it's either server owners who were already doing something shady, or B, members of the community that simply do not understand what has been said there. And I think, the analysis that I've done of it, I feel like this is something I've never seen. Personally, I've never seen a company do this. Never at all. And the fact that they've done this and they've been very open about it. Now, granted, there were a couple weeks in there where there were missteps made. Number one of those missteps was a lot of the Mojang employees are tweeting out, were tweeting out their own thoughts about what should and should not be allowed, and that was causing a lot of festering of wounds, right? Number one, it was causing wounds, and number two, it was causing those wounds to fester pretty badly. Really, Notch has got to go through his employees. He's got to really sit them down and go, look, guys, stop talking about this shit. Just do not, if you talk about it, you must put in there that you're not talking in an official capacity for Mojang, because again, it comes down to the misinterpretation, right? You've got employees for Mojang talking about Mojang policy, but they shouldn't be. I mean, I know me personally as a developer, as a software developer in an enterprise software, business, I cannot, if I ever talked about anything related to my company, right, and my company's policies, I would be in a world of hurt. I could lose my job for that, because it is not my job to talk about policy publicly, right? There are people whose job is to do that. There are CEOs, there are CTOs, there are PR people. That is their job, right? And it is my job to, in public, say, I can't talk about that. You must go to so-and-so and talk to them. You must get an official statement from so-and-so. I cannot, in my capacity, even though I'm a developer and I'm writing the code and I know what's going on in the company, probably firsthand, I cannot speak in a official capacity for a company, right? Because that is not my job. And I could lose my job if I ever did, right? And I think the other reason I point at Mojang and I go, inexperience, is because their employees, their developers, right, who should not be talking in an official capacity for anything, are talking on Twitter and not making it clear that they're not talking in an official capacity. And that causes it's caused a lot of problems with this. And I think a lot of the backlash that Notch is seeing is because he hasn't put the clamp down on that stuff. And I understand the need for transparency. I like transparency, but you can't have transparency like that, where your devs can talk about policy even though they're not supposed to, and then complain that people are complaining to you about things that they don't understand. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You gotta, those types of things have to be clamped down on. You just can't have it. It pains me to say that because I do like transparency, but at the same time, just because you're an indie dev, it does not give you free reign to do that stuff. You're still dealing with public, right? You're still dealing with the public, and the public can really suck sometimes. So if you don't want it to PR nightmare, you have to really clamp down on some things from time to time. So that pretty much winds up my thoughts on the Minecraft stuff that has happened. I'm sure I'll probably think of more things after I'm done recording this that I didn't talk about. If I do, I might bring them up in a later episode. I'm also open to any additional questions that might you, my dear viewers, might have. Certainly can try to at least give you my thoughts on it. Obviously, I can't speak to any official policy or anything like that because I have no idea. I have no affiliation with Mojang at all. But if you're looking for an additional opinion on something else, feel free to drop me a comment. All right, so we've done our Minecraft jaunt. Let us move on to the other big news this week, namely E3. Yes, you've heard a lot of other Livecraft miners talk about E3. I've listened to a lot of their talks about things that they're interested in, and I've learned I've learned a bunch about the people that I play Minecraft with, that I find interesting and awesome at the same time. Number one, apparently, a lot of the guys that are on the server really like Halo, which is awesome because I enjoy the hell out of Halo, the Halo series, and I guess I suppose I'm not alone in that because a lot of other people are very excited about one piece of news that came out of E3, and I have a whole list here, but you know what? I'm just going to go out of order as as I tend to do. Actually, there's two pieces of information that came out. One is there's a Halo 5 that has been announced, but no real details other than we saw an image of what is presumably Master Chief, and from what we understand, the whole the trilogy of the Reclamation trilogy, I believe, is what they call it, which is the story arc in the Halo universe. They decided that they wanted to do more than just a trilogy. They wanted to expand it out and have even more games in that series. So it sounds like Halo 5 is going to be picking up along the same terms, along the same path that was there. Unfortunately, I've still not gotten through Halo 4. I got through like the first mission, but have never gone back to it, unfortunately. I still have it just sitting there on the TV. I need to do that at some point. I've been playing so many games now and recording so much stuff that I feel like playing a game and not recording it is a waste of my time. which is hilarious to say because it's a game, right? There's still a lot of games I want to play that maybe probably don't make for good recordings, but I'm so happy about recording stuff that I just feel like if I'm not recording something, I'm doing something wrong. So maybe someday when I get my office here, my home office here sorted out and get a proper TV in here, and I can move my Xbox 360 in here and whatnot, maybe I will do it. Who knows? But very excited for Halo 5. I love the Halo series. The only games that I did not play in the Halo series were Halo Combat Evolved, which is the first one, and Halo 2. But I've played Halo 3, I've played ODST, loved ODST, oh man, I love that game. Reach, played that all the way through. Halo 4, as I mentioned, I own it. I only got through the first mission though. And then, of course, we got Halo 5 coming out. So that'll be kind of cool. The other thing that Microsoft announced is that there will be Halo the Master Chief Collection coming out, which is rather awesome. I'm really happy for that. It's basically packaging up Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, and also gives you access to the Halo 5 multiplayer beta. Just the purchasing of that. It's also, I believe that some of those games in there are the like anniversary, improved editions. So I believe they're going to, from what I heard, and I can't find the article where I read this, or the video where I heard it from, but from what I heard, you're going to be able to have the HD improved graphics for the earlier Halo games. You may also be able to switch off to the original graphics. I'm not sure on that. I'm about 30% on that one. But each game will be running in its old engine, right? So an emulated engine. So all the weird physics tricks and all that stuff will still be valid in this edition. They said that they're going to fix some of the bugs that are like game-breaking bugs, but most of them are going to just be the way they are. The rocket jumping and all that stuff, still going to be able to do it, which is awesome. Also, it's they're going to have the ability to do mission set lists. So when you're in, I presume, multiplayer mode or co-op mode, you'll be able to set up a list of missions that you want to play, I guess, in order from all the different games. So you don't have to play, you don't have to play through the whole game first. You can say, hey, I want to play this mission from Halo Combat Evolved. I want to play this mission from Halo 3. I want to play this mission from Halo 2, so on and so forth. So that sounds cool. The only issue I have with it is that I kind of wish that they had included Halo Reach and ODST, because they had some really fantastic missions in there in those games that I kind of wish were under the same package. But beggars can't be choosers, and having a Halo collection like this is still a very cool thing. It's also, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say it right now. This Halo collection might be the thing that causes me to buy an Xbox One. I've been on the fence for a long time about whether I want to buy an Xbox One or a PS4 or either or none, because we've had such a resurgence in PC gaming recently. So a lot of things are coming out on PC, but there are some exclusive things on the consoles that I'm like, you know what? I kind of need these. Here's my problem though, is what console to do. And I'm thinking, based upon some of the exclusives that I've seen in E3, I'm thinking it's going to be an Xbox One. I really am. I'm really considering it, especially considering that I can now buy one without the freaking Kinect on it. You can buy a much cheaper version, a $100 cheaper version of the console that does not include the Kinect, because that is the most useless thing I've ever seen in my life. And the fact that it's always on and all that stuff, I would end up unplugging it anyway. So might as well save the money for it by not having it in there in the first place. So yeah, that pretty much has sold me on the console right there. So I may end up buying an Xbox One. In the same sentence, the PS4 nothing's really been announced for it that I absolutely positively need. No exclusive anyway have been announced for it that I can't live without. So yeah, that's pretty much sold me on the Xbox One, I'd say. That being said, there are games that are not exclusive to the PS4 that are really enticing me. One of those is Destiny. Now, from what I read of Destiny, Destiny is the best way I can describe it is it's like a combination of, it's like Borderlands, really, if I were to really look at it. But it's more of a split between Halo and Mass Effect, right? Especially with the visuals and whatnot. So it's got the first-person shooter stuff of Halo and the story-ish stuff of Halo, and at the same time it's got the things that we care about as far as Mass Effect goes, which is also, also story, but B, the RPG elements. So leveling and character classes and so on and so forth. And actually, Vintage Beef just released a video a little bit earlier today where he's playing through the alpha of Destiny, and I saw that and I'm like, I need this. This must be in my life. I had seen videos of it earlier and I'm like, oh, I really want to take a look at this. And now that I've seen Beef playing it, I'm like, yep, I need this. I need this in my life. It's got sort of a, it is an MMO, I think. Yeah, I believe they classify it as an MMO. So it has some of the MMO-ish stuff to it, like, hey, grab me 15 bear asses and all those things. And sort of like the daily-ish questing thing and the group quests. I think he joined one of those while he was playing. So it's got that kind of stuff in it, which is fine. I don't mind that. But it's not coming out on the PC, from what I see. It's only going to come out on the consoles. And it's going to come out on all the major consoles. There was a question thrown at them like, hey, you're going to do a PC thing, and they sort of kind of didn't say that they weren't going to do a PC thing. They just said it wasn't in their priority lists for what they want to do. So that right there also has got me thinking, like, I need an Xbox. I need an Xbox One for that as well. Along those same lines, we've got what was the other one that I had on here? Well, we got Mass Effect 4. All right. I have played Mass Effect 1 all the way through. Mass Effect 2 almost to the end. I'm right at the end, and I kind of stopped right there. Have not played Mass Effect 3. I might do it at some point, but I've watched some let's plays of it, and all my misgivings about Mass Effect 3 kind of were confirmed when I looked at some of the gameplay. It didn't seem that much. I don't like the escalation in the story, right? It's the thing that kind of turned me off about Mass Effect 2 even, is that they feel like every time there's a new entry in the story, I feel like they have to, the devs are like, hey, we gotta make this, we gotta increase the stakes. It's gotta be higher and higher stakes. And I'm like, no, I don't really like that, because Mass Effect 3 was basically like, you're now saving the known universe. I'm like, oh, that's really done to death. I don't like that. I really don't. I mean, I like story, but I don't like it to be corny like that. To me, this guy, first of all, I saved this, and now I saved this, and now I'm saving the universe because there's nothing else for me to save. It's just like, no thanks. The escalation is what I don't like. I prefer them be my hero characters to be more realistic-ish. You know what I mean? Have a better arc than that. The whole we're gonna save the world thing is kind of done to death a little bit. And I guess that's really what turned me off about it, was the escalation part. Not necessarily to save the world part, but the escalation of, hey, I went from saving, the Alliance to saving the world to saving the universe, and what the hell am I going to save next? The Big Bang? Who the hell knows? But Mass Effect 4, from what they've said, it is not a continuation of the Shepard timeline. Shepard is gone, dead, kaput. It's going to be another character in the universe. They're not quite sure yet what time in the universe they're going to be in. They have said that it's not going to be just a simple soldier. It's not going to be a one-off. It's not going to be anything like Shepard. It's going to be something different entirely. So I'm kind of interested to see what that's going to be, because they really do need a refresh. I mean, really, really need a refresh, especially story-wise, because, again, I was not a big fan of the story of Mass Effect 3 that I saw anyway. So that's cool. And then there's also... So I wrote down on here, Battlefield Hardline. Now, you guys know from my other rants here that I'm not big into the military shooter stuff. So the Battlefields and the Calls of Duties never really appealed to me. And of course, they've also announced Call of Duty Advanced Warfare-ish thing, because modern warfare wasn't good enough. Now we're advanced warfare, and I'm sure it'll be temporal warfare. Will be the next one probably, for who the hell knows. But that is closer to the military shooter thing, which is not. I do not like. I'm really not a big fan of the military shooters. I just don't. They just don't appeal to me, But what has got me hung up with Battlefield Hardline is that even though they've got sort of the military shooter stuff in it, you're not military. You're either cops or you're, criminals. Sort of like it's basically a modern turn on the cops and robbers stuff that we all used to play as kids, right? They basically took, from what I saw from the trailer, they took Payday 1 and 2, and they combined it with was like an open world ish thing. I'm trying to think. What was that one? I forget the name of it now. It's it was on the tip of my tongue and I forgot it. But that seems like what they're trying to do. They're trying to combine those two things, the open world stuff, driving mechanics and all that stuff, and then of course they're putting the multiplayer on top of it. Now, here's the thing that kind of confused me about it is they talk a whole lot about the multiplayer in Battlefield Hardline. So much so that I don't even know if there's a single player, to be honest with you. I mean, I understand why they're doing it. I mean, people play the Battlefield games and the Call of Duty games and all that stuff mostly for the multiplayer because the single player usually sucks, right? Nowadays anyway. But literally I cannot tell you, based upon the marketing materials I looked at, whether or not there is an actual single player realm of this, because that's all they seem to talk about is the multiplayer stuff. Which I'm sure the multiplayer stuff will be awesome, right? Because, yeah, hey, who doesn't want to play cops and robbers with random internet people who are, 6 years old and squeaky and screaming at them at the top of their lungs? But I also like story. Can we have a little story? I think there's a story in there. It seems like there's room for a story in there, but I can't tell you for sure. So that was sort of my open question there. What else we got going on here? I'm trying to think. What was that other? I had a whole. A game that I just went on by Ubisoft. Ubisoft announced a game called The Crew, and it's an open world racing game. It's similar to like the Forza Horizons and the sort of Driver San Francisco-ish things, and also Test Drive Unlimited. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the people who the development team for Test Drive Unlimited are the ones, or several of them are the ones that have worked on The Crew, this new game that Ubisoft has announced, which is awesome because I loved Test Drive Unlimited 1. I have Test Drive Unlimited 2 and it sucks. It really sucks. I didn't play very much of it on the PC anyway, but Test Drive Unlimited 1, loved it. Played it a hell of a lot on the Xbox 360. But this one is in the same style. It's basically you have a crew of drivers, and you have basically you can drive coast to coast in America, taking on various missions, I suppose, or various races. It's a scaled down version of America, but it's still you still can travel coast to coast and do your thing. So I was so impressed by it. I've actually gone off and pre-ordered it already for PC. So we'll see what happens with that when that comes out, because I'm very, very interested in what I saw there. Also, Forza Horizon 2 was announced, and it's the same idea as Forza Horizon, which I did not play, but I did watch I did watch Vintage Beef play it. Enjoyed that a lot. Same ideas, except now instead of taking place in, I think the first one took place in Colorado, if I remember. Instead of taking place there, it now takes place in southern France and northern Italy, and the two areas are going to be sort of instanced, I guess, where you have challenges, which they're calling a bucket list. And that is different for each of those areas. So, you can do your various challenges along the way, and you'll travel, from what I understand, you'll travel back and forth between those two different areas, and have a bunch of tracks to play on and drive on. So that is cool. Also, for the first time in a Forza Horizon game, they're going to have dynamic weather as you're playing. So That sounds cool. Sounds cool. May not get into that myself, but we'll see. Then let's see, what else do we have on here? Game of Thrones. It was announced at E3. Telltale came on and said, "Hey, guess what, guys? We are making a Game of Thrones video game." And I went and I looked it up from their official site, and literally there is no information about it. There is a page up there with a quote-unquote trailer, which is basically just text, floaty text on a background with a portion of the theme song playing, and that was it. So I have no idea what it's going to look like. But what attracts me to it is the fact that Telltale is doing it. And for those of you unaware, Telltale is the one that is doing. They mostly do point and clicks, but they've done all the Walking Dead stuff, Walking Dead season 1 and 2. They've also done The Wolf Among Us. Those are two of their more popular ones, and they're fantastically done. Fantastically done. They also did a Back to the Future game that Good played. Several other smaller ones that aren't quite as well known. But every game that they've made so far has been rather fantastic. Even though they're point and clicks, they are pretty good. The stories are good. The scenes are good. The branching dialogue and different endings are all good. And they do them in sort of a seasonal thing. So they you have like episode 1 or season 1, and then I think, what is it? Season 1, and then you have like several episodes in there, and then season 2, and you have several episodes in there, and they release them as they go. Fantastic. So, given their name and given their track record, the fact that they're taking on a Game of Thrones game has got my ears perked up, because I'm not big into the Walking Dead stuff. I don't. The zombie apocalypse stuff is done to death, and I just don't enjoy it. So I haven't been into that. The Wolf Among Us one looked really interesting. I just never pulled the trigger on it and picked it up. Because it's sort of that, it's the fairy tales, it's sort of like the grim tales type of thing. Fairy tales turn on their head and everybody's kind of, more gray instead of black and white. But now they're looking at Game of Thrones. I'm like, okay. Since this is something that I watch and something that I enjoy, although to be honest with you, I've missed every episode of the season so far, so I'm really. It's hard for me to go and say that I'm still a fan because I've missed every episode so far. It's just because I forget, and it's it is what it is. Hopefully, I can catch up at some point in time. But I've been reading the Reddit and stuff, so I understand some of the things that have happened, some of the major stuff anyway. But that has my ears perked up. It's something I'm going to take a look at and keep my eyes on. What else do we have on here? Dawngate. Dawngate is a MOBA game. Very much in the style of League of Legends. It's so, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, my history of MOBA games is runs hot and cold, right? Like, I enjoy the hell out of what is the name of it now? The name has escaped me. Damn it, man. Damn your memory and how leaky it is. I enjoy some MOBA games. I don't enjoy the hardcore ones like League of Legends and Dota. I'm not really a big fan of. Mostly because the communities of those games are kind of, but Awesome Nuts. Awesome Nuts is one MOBA that I've really enjoyed. I enjoy a lot of it because the community is actually really good for that. And the mechanics are set up such that you don't, even though it's got the MOBA mechanics, you don't hurt your team as much as you would in other games, in other MOBAs, right? And Dawn Gate looks like more like League of Legends stuff, so it's probably something that I wouldn't necessarily pick up myself. But it also reminded me that Heroes of the Storm, which is also a MOBA, I'm still keeping an eye on that from time to time. That's by Blizzard, and that's in closed alpha right now, I think. I'm trying to get into the beta of that, but we'll see if that ever happens. But that has my attention because that seems like something that is more casual, more geared towards someone like me who doesn't want to min-max or grind, doesn't want to deal with it. It seems like it would have a more casual community, people are not screaming in your face for things. So that's kind of where I stand with MOBAs and all that stuff. And what else we got here? We got Civilization Beyond Earth. If you're the type of person that's into 4X strategy games or into the Civilization games, this is the latest Civilization game. It's got Sid Meier's name on it, so I assume he's involved in some capacity. But it's basically billed as the spiritual successor to Alpha Centauri, Civilization Alpha Centauri. In this case, though, instead of being in Alpha Centauri, you're on Earth, but you're highly technology. You go up into higher tiers of technology, and then you're presumably supposed to leave Earth at some point. I don't know if you start on Earth and then you leave it, or what. All I saw was space stations and whatnot. So if you're into that, that's looks like it's pretty cool. It's got some differences from some of the Civilization games that have been out there. For instance, it's got a tech web instead of a tech tree, and what that means is, at some point in the game, as you're going along the tech tree, you have to make a permanent choice about which branch you're going to go off on, and then from that point on in the web, you can't get any of the other technologies in the other parts of the web, of the tech web. So you will not be able to complete one game and have all the different technologies in the tech tree for that game. You'll have to start a new game and take a different path, which sounds kind of interesting. It sounds like a nice little turn, right? Instead of your game always ending up the same way, it gives you a reason to come back and retry a different strategy and see something else. And maybe there's some other way you want to play the game that is closer to the way you normally play, or maybe you want to try something different. So that has me intrigued. I'm not. I can do some 4X strategy games, but I'm really, really terrible at them. I mean, really terrible. Like, extremely terrible. Like, to the point where I feel bad recording and uploading videos of them. Like, I played The Last Federation, which is technically a 4X game, and I haven't put any other episodes up because I'm like, you know what? I really suck. I really suck. I suck so bad that I feel bad to put the episodes up. The Civ stuff doesn't really necessarily. It might be something that I do on my own, but I don't know that it's something that I don't have to go out tomorrow and purchase it. Let's put it that way, because I just know that I have a love-hate relationship with the 4Xs. So that takes care of that. And we have a bunch more. I have a bunch more on my list here that I can talk about probably next time. One thing I want to talk about, one of the last things I want to touch on before we part ways here, No Man's Sky. Oh, this one has got me interested so much so. I have a bunch of actually sci-fi fighter, space combat games on my list here, and this is one of the ones that's on the top of my list because it sort of combines the space fighter stuff with the exploration stuff of like Terraria and Starbound and all those things, and it's a 3D game, and it's all about the exploration. You go out, you find new species, you go out and find new not colonies, but new planets, and so on and so forth. And it's got a seamless transition, so you can jump in your fighter, and you can transition from the planet surface out to the space, and then go to another planet that another person has found and has their name on, and then you get to see what they've seen, and it's all procedurally generated. It looks spectacular. I cannot wait. Ever since I saw the first video on it, I'm like, I cannot wait for this thing. I want to see what this is. I need this in my life. So they released a new trailer during E3 where they actually show some gameplay, and it's awesome. I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool. I recommend, if you like any kind of space fighter combat games, that you really check that out, because it looks spectacular. But anyway, that will do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.